and I am going to turn on live transcript. There we go. Okay. So again, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Ryan Provost. I am the Graduate Career and Professional Development Coordinator for the Department of Educational Studies. Just want to go over some information about our programs, about our department, how to apply, and then we'll get to any questions that you all have. So first of all, we have 11 different programs at the graduate level in the Department of Educational Studies. You can see those here on your screens, a mix of master's and doctoral level programs that we offer in the department. Our department is one of 3 departments in the College of Education and Human Ecology here at The Ohio State University. So there's Department of Educational Studies, as well as the Departments of Teaching and Learning and the Department of Human Sciences. So if you don't see a program that you're interested in here, it might fall into one of those other departments. Otherwise, you're in the right space, so welcome. We in the Department of Ed Studies are really proud to have some programs that are nationally recognized as being among some of the best programs in the country for their particular academic fields. As you can see on your screen, in the most recent 2022 US News and World Report rankings, several of our programs were among the highest ranking in their fields in the country, including educational administration, our counseling education program, our school and educational psychology programs, and our higher education and student affairs program, all nationally recognized. In addition, many of our faculty are some of the most recognized faculty in the country. 3 of our faculty members, including our chair, Dr. Lori Patton-Davis, have been recognized as some of the highest ranking faculty in terms of their influence in the fields of education. In addition to Dr. Patton-Davis, I know Dr. Donna Ford in our special education department or program, and Dr. James L. Moore also were on that list. In addition to having high-ranked programs, we also have faculty who are highly influential and have huge impacts in their fields. A few highlights of our college and our department. So we have had a huge focus on increasing the diversity of our faculty in the last few years. And now for the College of Education and Human Ecology, have 30% faculty being people of color, which we are very proud of our diversity and outreach efforts to increase the diversity in our college. That is reflected in our department and in our programs. And we have a huge social justice mindset and diversity and inclusion mindset within our department that spans all of our programs and is also a big part of our college as well. The Department of Ed Studies has awarded almost $200,000 in student travel awards since 2017. We really put a huge focus on giving our students great opportunities to travel, whether it be to conferences, to professional development opportunities, and other things that will help them expand their academic experience and help prepare them for a great educational experience that will get them ready for their careers when they leave Ohio State. So we're very proud of the support we've been able to provide for our students. Even in times of COVID, we have tried to provide as much opportunities for our students to get professional development experience and conference experience during their time with us. In addition to conferences, our Ed Studies faculty and students have been published in many national, local, and highly regarded publications in their fields, including some of the things you see on the screen: Huffington Post, the Columbus Dispatch here in Columbus, Ohio, and some journals you see there that are specific to specific areas within their different fields. So we are very proud that our students have been able to get those kinds of experiences to be published and working with our faculty. Several of our students have had those chances and opportunities while they're here with us. We also, as a college and as a department, focus on discussing critical issues that are facing education right now, whether that is issues regarding the pandemic and how education has been impacted by the move to largely virtual spaces over the last year and a half, or whether it's social justice issues regarding race and how anti-racism efforts in colleges and in educational settings are happening right now and are being addressed by society. Our college and our department are big on making sure that we are actively engaged in critical issues that are facing all levels of education, because we are trying to prepare our students to be the next great educational leaders. So we always want to make sure our fingers are on the pulse of what's happening. Another thing many of you may not know, because either you haven't been to Columbus before, or maybe you do live in Columbus. We like to brag about our city, Columbus, Ohio. We are the 15th largest, maybe 14th. We're 14th largest city in the United States. And actually, a lot of people who haven't been here before think that maybe Columbus is just a small town, maybe just a college town with not much outside of it, but we actually are a pretty large city with lots to offer. So I will show this short video from Experience Columbus, and just to give you a little idea of what is around Columbus besides just the university. So I'll go ahead and start that right now. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little idea of just what Columbus has to offer. I like to show the video just to show, for anyone who has not been to Columbus before, that we're not just a college town. And a lot of times folks come here thinking that they'll only be kind of in the heart of campus, or that there won't be much besides Ohio State here, but there actually is a pretty cool community around Columbus for all types of folks. So always like to point that out. So I'll talk a little bit about tuition and funding and for our graduate students. So what you'll see here on the top of the page is the tuition and fee tables for graduate students for the current academic year. The tuition and fees for next academic year, when most of you would be starting, is actually not available right now, but this will give you a good idea of what that looks like. You can find this table on our registrar's website if you go and look up the tuition and fee tables, but it can be a little complicated on that site. So I like to put it here just to simplify it a little bit, just so you have an idea of what to expect. For graduate and PhD programs, it says not listed below because on the website, it lists all of our other professional programs that have different fees. You'll only look at this top row of the page when you go to it if you are going to look at it for yourselves. But the instructional fees, the tuition for this academic year are $722.50 per academic credit hour, and that goes up to 8 credit hours. So if you're to take more than 8 credit hours, that would be the max. It wouldn't add on $722.50 beyond that 8 credit hours. For fees, not for tuition. I said that wrong. The tuition would still go up, but then the other fees you see there would not exceed 8 credit hours per credit hour there. Sorry for that misspeak. As far as how students are funded in our programs, there are 3 primary ways that our students find funding to assist them while they're here. And I will go through each of those in a little bit of detail. So the first are graduate associateships. And there are different types of graduate associateships that are offered here. One is through the Department of Educational Studies. We have graduate teaching associateships, and we have graduate research associateships. Those are pretty much what they sound like. Grad students work in a teaching or a research capacity to support our faculty in doing the work of teaching courses or doing research projects. And through doing that, are able to work closely with our faculty and our students in that capacity. The other type of graduate associateships are working for different offices around campus, oftentimes through our Office of Student Life on campus. And that is a separate graduate associate opportunity outside of the College of Education and Human Ecology or our department. And you would apply for those graduate associateships separately. Most of those are for students in our higher education and student affairs program, but some are given to students outside of those programs. And those graduate associateships in student life are typically things that work directly with students through places like university housing, as a graduate associate working as an assistant residence hall director, or in other offices around campus. I know we have had students outside of the higher education student affairs program find graduate associateships outside of our college. I knew of one who was in our counselor ed master's program who had a graduate associateship with the Writing Center. So it is possible to get a graduate associateship in student life without being in the higher education student affairs program, but most of those associateships go to those students. Graduate associateship is typically about a 50% appointment to a position. So you would work about a 20-hour week, and through that would have your tuition covered and would get a small stipend on top of that. Fellowships are another form of funding that covers tuition and fees, but it is not one that students apply directly for. When you're filling out your application for your program, you would indicate that you're interested in being considered for a fellowship. And then as our faculty review our different applicants, they nominate students based on a variety of criteria to the graduate school to receive fellowships. Those criteria are typically based on a student's academic background and take into consideration things like diversity and making sure that we are attracting our highly talented students to come to the university. So it's nothing that you need to do or apply to separately from your application. It is something that our faculty who review applicants nominate students for. And then if you were to receive a fellowship offer, you would get notified of that as you are getting notified of your admission status. Fellowships are typically given to doctoral level students, although not exclusively, but for the most part, fellowships will be doctoral level students that you'll see get those. Then we also have scholarships available within the College of Education and Human Ecology. I definitely recommend students, if you are interested in our programs, to apply for scholarships. It is a separate application, and those applications are actually open now. So you can apply for scholarships now as you are also applying for your program. And if you are admitted to the program, could be considered for one of our EHE scholarships. So definitely consider applying for those. I always encourage people to find free money if you can. So take a look at our EHE scholarships on our website. If you go to our website, you will see at that link at the bottom, we have a whole funding opportunities page with information about graduate associateships, fellowships, scholarships, and where to go to apply for any of those. So in general, most of our applications for most of our programs are due December 1st, 2021 to start in autumn 2022. There are some exceptions to that, and I will go over those shortly, but just to keep in mind, for most of you, you're looking at that December 1st deadline if you are looking to start next autumn. Now, if you are an OSU employee, I always encourage you to please talk with your HR representative about becoming a student and what the tuition benefit is and what that would look like for you. I am not an expert on how the tuition benefit works, but your HR representative is. So please make sure you talk to them about that so that you have a good idea of what the financial impact of you becoming a student would be and how you can best utilize your benefit as an OSU employee. We also have some upcoming information sessions like this one. If you are interested in learning more, one thing I will push is we have a couple of critical issues in education panels coming up. One on November 1st that will feature some current students, and one on November 18th that will feature some of our current faculty members, just talking about some issues that they see in education right now, so that you can, as a potential student, kind of see what the conversations are looking like inside of our classrooms and inside of our department in terms of how we think about education. So a really good opportunity for you to get to know kind of our department a little bit more through our students and through our faculty members. So definitely check out that link for those opportunities. We also have a couple of our programs are hosting some program specific information sessions. Most of those have passed, but we will post any more that are happening on that website. And I do know a couple that are coming up that are listed on there. So make sure you check out that website if you have not already. Now I'll talk a little bit more about the application process and go over exactly what is needed for you to apply. So like I mentioned, for most of our programs, the application deadline is December 1st if you're looking to start in autumn 2022. There are a few exceptions. So if you are looking to apply for our Master's in Biomedical Education, our Master's in Educational Administration, and our Master's in Workforce Development, we actually have rolling admissions for those programs, and you can start in any term, spring, summer, or autumn. And if you're looking to start in spring, the application is actually due November 1st, so coming up pretty quickly. If you're looking to start in summer, the application is due March 1st. And if you're looking to start in autumn, it is April 1st for those programs only. For our Masters of Learning Technologies, they do start in autumn 2022, but the application deadline isn't till March 1st. So you have a little more time if you're applying for our Master of Learning Technologies program. And then for our Doctor of Education program in Higher Education and Student Affairs, it is still a December 1st deadline, but it is for a summer semester start. So you would be starting in the summer of 2022, not in the autumn. And then if you are looking at the Doctor of Education for Educational Administration, as you can see, that is only offered even numbered years only. So we are offering that program for this upcoming 2022 cycle. And it is a February 1st application deadline to start in autumn 2022. The materials you'll need for your application include 3 letters of recommendation. The way you submit those is after you fully complete your application, as part of your application, you'll be asked to list your 3 recommenders. Upon successfully completing the application, your 3 recommenders will get an email instructing them how to upload their letter on your behalf. So I say that to say you will want to make sure to get your application done a little bit sooner rather than later so that your recommenders have time to submit their letters on your behalf. It says that within 5 business days of submitting your application and paying your fee that they will get that automated email. So definitely make sure that you give them ample time to get that letter submitted on your behalf. I do recommend you go ahead and reach out to your 3 folks that you would like to be your recommenders to give them a heads up so that they can start writing their letters and gathering their thoughts to be able to recommend you. There is no requirement on exactly who those 3 folks are. We do recommend, if possible, that they be folks who can speak to your ability to be successful in the classroom, to think critically, to work well with others, and to generally be the type of person who can be successful in a graduate program. So whether that is former instructors, academic advisors, coworkers, supervisors, people who have worked with you in organizations, whether it's collegiate organizations, community organizations, whatever the case may be. We don't have specific folks because we have so many different types of applicants, but those are typically the types of recommenders we see. You will also need to provide up-to-date curriculum vitae, CV, or a resume. Not much to dive into there. Just make sure that you highlight any relevant experiences that are good for our faculty to know as they consider you, but you will want to make sure that that is up to date, well polished, and good to go for you to update that as part of your application. All students will also need to include a statement of purpose. For most of our programs, the statement of purpose is just a very general statement. I tell people to typically talk about you specifically, why you would be a good fit for this program, what you're hoping to get out of it. Take a look at our faculty members for the program you're applying for. If any of them or their research interests connect with you, you can speak to things like that. But really, it's a good chance for our faculty who are reviewing your application to get to know who you are a little bit better. So this is typically about a 1 to 2 page statement. So if it's less than a page, you're probably not saying enough and should be expanding a little bit more. If it's more than 2 pages, you might want to edit it down a little bit just to keep it concise. There are a few of our programs that have some specific prompts that you'll want to address and some questions that you'll want to answer in your statement of purpose. Those are our educational administration, educational policy, higher education and student affairs, and school psychology programs. If you go to our prospective student website, you'll be able to see what those specific prompts are. And like I said, you'll just want to make sure that you address those prompts in your statement of purpose. But as I mentioned earlier, all of our other programs do not have specific prompts, and it's really just a chance for you to let our faculty members get to know you a little bit better. A few of our programs do require a writing sample be submitted. Those programs are our Educational Administration PhD program, our Educational Policy Masters and PhD programs, our Educational Psychology Masters and PhD programs, our Learning Technologies PhD program, and our Philosophy and History of Education Masters and PhD programs. None of our other programs require a writing sample. And what the writing sample is, for those of you who are applying to one of those programs, it's just an example of your best academic writing. It can be anything really. It can be something that you wrote for a paper, in a paper that you wrote in college for a class. It can be something if you've ever had something published. Really, it's completely up to you. The purpose is for our faculty to be able to get a sense of who you are as a writer, and that's why you submit it. There's no page requirement or page limit for it. They just really want to see what you consider to be your best academic writing. A lot of students ask about the GRE. So the GRE scores are only required for the following programs: our Educational Administration PhD, our Educational Psychology Masters and PhD, our Learning Technologies PhD, and our Quantitative Research Measurement and Evaluation Masters and PhD. No other programs require GRE scores. If your program does require the GRE score, you'll want to make sure that you submit scores that have from GRE that has been taken within the past 5 years. So only scores from within the past 5 years will be considered. And then, as you can see, our OSU institution code is 1592. That is where you'll want to get those scores sent. So make sure you get that if your program does require GRE. If your program does not require GRE, but you did take it, you do not need to submit those scores. So it does not give you a leg up. Our faculty do not take into consideration scores if they are not required. So if you are thinking, maybe I should take the GRE and submit the scores if they're good, just to give me a leg up on other applicants, it won't do you any good. Only take the GRE if you're required to do so. And then, of course, all students must submit any transcripts from any institutions where they have received academic credit from the collegiate level. So anywhere where you've gotten college credit before, you'll want to make sure to get those official transcripts sent in. And our graduate and professional admissions does have a website where you can see exactly how to get transcripts submitted to be considered official for your application. Make sure not to send transcripts directly to our office, as soon as they touch our office, they become unofficial and you'd have to resubmit them. So make sure, review graduate professional admissions website, specifically their transcript section, to make sure that you get those sent in correctly for your application to be considered complete. And that is what's required for materials for what you would need to apply. Now, the last thing I'll say as part of my presentation before I open it up to questions is, please feel free to connect with us. I've listed our 3 social media channels. Follow us on there to get a sense of what kinds of things that our department does. We post events there. We post highlights of things that our faculty and staff are doing. A lot of great things that'll give you as a potential student in our programs a good sense of who our department is, what we do, what we highlight, what we value. So for sure, take a look at that just to follow us and get to know us a little bit better. And then if you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to our email address, edstudies@osdu.edu. Everyone in our office takes a look at that email and we make sure it gets to the right people. So if you have a question that needs to go to a very specific person, send it to that. That way we can make sure that that person gets it. If you send it to, a specific person, it may get bounced around to several different people before it gets to the right person. So that edstudies@osu.edu is really going to be your best bet in terms of getting your question answered by the right person. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I am going to stop recording